Bjorn. Manjutak. He's from Norway. What would the Norwegians know about EVs, eh?
Presentation loaded up or?
Yes, it is, and there's your clicker.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I hope so. Oh, we don't have it. Where's your presentation? On a stick?
I got one here.
Oh, watch, Penny will fix it. Won't be a second. Have you noticed how the intelligentsia attends these sessions? Like half the people in the audience look like they could lecture and be on stage. What's that? As well. And it's great to see the young ones here as well. Bjorn, how many years now in it?
How many years in Australia?
No, how many years involved in electric vehicles and energy and...
Oh dear. I first drove an electric car back in 2010.
Yeah.
And I heard about vehicle to grid back in 2012, and that was just incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Get on the microphone and keep talking.
All right, I have to start. Keep talking. Sorry, guys.
Too running. These are dad jokes until the presentation line.
Can I move this?
Yeah, of course, mate. You're going to do karaoke as well?
I can do karaoke, but...
That's this one. You can do karaoke. All your favourite Norwegian hits.
There we go.
That's it. Beautiful.
Alrighty, so while we're waiting...
Is that the one?
It is. No, sorry, there's another one. I do a lot of presentations, sorry.
Look pretty good, but look pretty engaging, Bjorn.
It's the other one. Yeah, no, this is the fun. Probably shouldn't say fun. This is the serious presentation that I think more people probably should be seeing, because most of you probably know that in Australia we do have quite a few electric cars now. We don't have enough chargers yet. And a lot of the issues why we don't have chargers is because of the hold-up with approvals, with regulation, and we also have issues around a lot of perceptions around EVs in particular. And it's quite normal because we're fairly early in the piece. So I think it's only a matter of time basically before we kind of start realizing that electric cars are here to stay. Electric cars are going to be they're actually fun to drive. They're actually really safe. And once you've actually driven one, you would know what I mean. So today, the purpose of this presentation is so that any one of you, basically, when someone tells you that, oh, I like an EV, or I'm thinking about buying an EV, and they tell you, aren't you worried about the fires? Don't you hear that they blow up all the time? They actually just catch fire spontaneously. Well, hopefully what you learned today in this presentation, you'll be able to tell them what is actually the facts and be able to put them straight. Because strangely, when we have an issue or when we don't know a solution to a problem, we usually look to people who have already done it or who's got experience with it. So last year, when I went back to Norway to see my parents, I actually met with the Norwegian fireys, I met with the councils, I met with the AMBOs to see actually what the issue actually is and what they're doing about it. And the results are quite shocking compared to what we're hearing all the time in social media or elsewhere. So let's see if this clicker works. Here we go. Oh. What do you know? Sorry, it's a bit small, guys. It's firstly, I just wanted to touch on, why are we worried about electric vehicles and batteries? Because a lot of people are naturally worried about new technology. It's untested, right? We haven't really had much experience with it, so we don't know what it's going to do. A lot of times we hear about things on media, in the social media. We hear from influencers who might have an agenda or not. And I think it's just natural resistance to change, right? People want to justify, just keep doing what they're doing. And if they come up with an excuse, I'm not going to get an EV because it's dangerous, so I'm just going to keep driving my current car, it's a great excuse. And just a natural fear of the unknown. If you haven't driven one, you don't have experience with it, why not? We're not quite sure what's happening every night. Are we worried about that? No? How about your remote control? It's got lithium batteries in it, probably. Maybe alkaline, but probably lithium as well. So why is it suddenly when a battery, which is very similar to those, goes into an EV, it becomes dangerous or it becomes explosive? Because it's just a battery. And that's what has dumbfounded me a little bit, why we are so worried about this. The only thing I can tell is that sometimes electric vehicles are bundled up with the likes of e-bikes, scooters, and the like. They're often referred to as light EVs, and they are actually sometimes more fire-prone than electric vehicles because people are fiddling with them. They're trying to make them go faster, and things like that. So that is a potential reason. But first of all, I just want to show you a little bit about how safe EVs are. This is from an accident in the US. The picture on the left there, you might not be able to see it. This car actually literally drove off a cliff and went all the way down into that gully, and that's the vehicle afterwards on the right. What don't you see in that photo? It didn't catch on fire. It's amazing. They all catch on fire when they have an accident. Amazingly, every single person in that car survived. It's pretty incredible. Now, first of all, let's talk about level of risk. The Norwegian experience. You might know that Norway is one of the countries that have come the furthest in that transition to EVs. They currently have about 760,000 EVs on the road, and EVs actually make up about 26% of all cars on the road. And sales at the last month, I think, was 94% of all sales were actually electric in Norway. So they're transitioning really, really quickly. So, as I said, when I went back to Norway, I actually talked to the fireys. I talked to the councils, and I asked them, "Hey, aren't you guys worried about fires and about we're hearing all about these dangerous EVs in Australia?" And they actually laughed, and they said, "No, well, 10 years ago, we were worried. We didn't know what we were talking about or what we were doing. But these days, that's all gone away. Now you can park and charge an EV anywhere you want in Norway, any building, any type of car park, because they know that EVs are significantly less likely to catch fire compared to internal combustion. When I say ICE, that's internal combustion engine vehicles, so that's your petrol and diesel cars. It's actually based on real-world data, like the Swedish, the Civil Contingency Agency have reported that EVs, based on their data, they're about 20 times less likely to catch fire or to be involved in a fire. The actual fire reporting from Norway, I'll show you that in a minute, shows that they're usually about between 7 and 8 times less likely to be involved in a fire. And even when they are involved in a fire, we know from Dutch research that the battery is only involved in 20 to 30% of the time. So chances are if an EV catches fire from, say, another vehicle, battery is not involved. So let me show you the actual fire stats. On the left, let me see over here. Whoop. This is petrol and diesel vehicles. This is EVs, other hybrid gas. In 2023, there were 700 internal combustion fires in Norway, and only 33 EV fires. If you then add that up to the number of vehicles on the road, it's about between 7 and 8 times less likely. Norway doesn't report on if a battery has been involved, so it's even less than that if you're talking about battery fires, because we know that if a battery is not involved, the fire can just be put out like any other vehicle. But let's have a look at Australia. To date, I actually talked to Emma from EV FireSafe. We do actually track all the fires around the world on EVs, or actually battery fires. And in Australia, we actually only had 8 incidents now. We've had a couple in the last 2 years, but only 8 incidents since 2010 of an EV battery actually being on fire, or being involved in a fire. You had lots of other EVs being involved in fires. Usually it's because of a structure around it, like the garage actually burns down. But only 8 incidents where the battery's been involved. And we have over 200,000 EVs on the road already. Can anyone guess how many internal combustion fires we've had, or we have? Anyone know? No? We actually don't know. because most fireys don't release the data, except for the New South Wales Fire Service. And just in the last financial year, in New South Wales alone, in the 1 year, they responded to 2,803 internal combustion engine fires. So when an EV is on fire, it becomes news. When an internal combustion vehicle is on fire, it happens. It's just what happens. So these are the kind of numbers that we're actually looking at. But I hear you say, if an EV is involved in a crash or in an incident, it just catches fire. It just blows up, right? Okay, let's have a look. I'm going to show you a couple of crash tests. This is first one is from a Nissan Leaf in Germany, I believe. Here we go. They've done a couple of these crash tests, first from the front, then from the side. And now have a look at this. Have a look at the impact. And this is the actual battery pack now being completely indented. And what don't you see? This is pretty fun. BYD did this as a bit of a stunt, basically. They basically chucked one of their seals into the side of a pole. Then they turned it around, sent it into the pole on the other side of the car. And it's obviously impacted the vehicle. Then they took the battery out of that vehicle, and put it into a new vehicle, and then they just drove away. This actually reminds me of what the Norwegian Fire Service told me as well. They actually tell me that the battery is actually the strongest part of the car. And it's incredibly robust, and it's actually protected really, really well. There's like metal bars and stuff around on the outside. And the other thing they said is actually because the battery is so low in the car, if there is an incident with another vehicle, the other vehicle will actually go on top of the battery, so the battery actually stays intact, and it's less likely to be involved. Now, if the battery is involved, that's when it gets dangerous. Right. Well, luckily, manufacturers are actually building in significant measures into their batteries to make sure they don't catch on fire in the first place, or if they do catch on fire, they don't burn for very long. Photo on the left there, that's actually fire retardant foam that's filled up basically inside the battery. Other manufacturers will use firewalls within the battery that they use to make sure that it doesn't actually spread any further. And another story from Norway is that they actually had the fire chief basically told me that in one instance the battery fire just kept on stopping. He didn't kept on stop burning. So he had to get a pickaxe and basically just hacking away at the battery to make it burn out because it just kept on stopping burning. So it's these kind of things are the things that you don't hear because it's not very fancy. The other thing is that the cabin is actually protected because the battery, as I said, is in a locked metal box under the vehicle. A good example of that is on the right-hand side there. That's from a burnt-out Tesla that EV FireSafe pulled apart. The battery was involved. It hit some road debris and tore up the whole battery compartment. The whole thing caught fire. I want to draw your attention to this is a Mount Franklin plastic water bottle. Even though the fire actually eventually reached the cabin through the air vents, you can see the wheel here has started to melt. The cabin temperature never got high enough to actually melt a basic Mount Franklin water bottle. It's pretty incredible. So even if there was someone in that car, that probably would have been okay. What they do in Norway essentially is make sure, number one, don't pierce the battery pack. If you do, that can cause a fire. They cover it in a fire blanket, and they put a little, I guess it's a sprinkler system underneath it, basically, that just cools the battery. And then they just leave it. They leave it for half an hour, 40 minutes, let it burn out, let it do its thing. Then they basically pull the fire blanket off, get rid of the vehicle. So it's a lot easier and a lot simpler than people think. So it's not something that you don't even try to burn it to put it out, right? You put water on it to make sure that some of the gases don't escape. But essentially, it's a lot simpler basically than they've tried a lot of different things. So There's a couple of quotes here. I'm not going to read them out to you, but basically the Norwegian Director for Civil Protection, who looks after the fireys in Norway, have essentially come out and they said in their policy is that there's no increased risk of EVs catching fire, so there's no additional measures required for parking EVs in parking structures. The fireys in Fire Research Institute of Sweden as well has basically said that internal combustion engine vehicles and EVs have about the same peak temperature or fire, what do they call it? Fire intensity and peak heat release rates. So they actually don't burn too much hotter either. And finally, basically, the EVs are not more dangerous than conventional vehicles. And again, you don't need additional measures. Because what people always forget when they talk about EVs, it's not just an EV or nothing. It's an EV or an internal combustion vehicle. And a combustion vehicle is more likely to catch fire. When it catches fire, basically, yes, you can put it out probably a bit quicker, but it's just a different method of fighting that fire. That's all it is. So finally, I just wanted to leave you with this, that EVs are here to stay. We have to be able to deal with any EV fires in the rare event that it does happen. And we need some sensible, easily implementable measures, basically, to safely put these vehicles in car parks. If we put onerous measures on building owners, on apartment owners, on anyone basically who tries to put an EV charger or an EV in a car park, we're going to get non-compliance, and we're going to get less pickup of EVs, which again is going to make our air quality a lot worse. And people are going to still buy EVs. So the whole point is basically that EVs are going to they're probably going to be parked in every single car park, regardless if it's underground or not. So we just have to know how to handle it, and very rarely it might happen. So we are working with the fireys, basically. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. But if the fireys want to talk to Norwegians, they're more than happy to share their experience. And I'm also happy to have a chat to anyone if they want to know more about this topic. And that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Bjorn. Good job. Again, as usual, beware of half-truths. You might have the wrong half. Don't go yet. Any questions?
Oh, yes, sorry.
I knew there would be, because everyone thinks that EVs just spontaneously combust.
You were predominantly talking about lithium-type batteries. Is the take-up of other technologies real? Is it happening very quickly, or is it still very distant?
A very good question, actually. I've just touched on lithium batteries. What's coming, we know, is that sodium batteries will be coming, which essentially is salt water. So they're not very fire, and then don't pose a big fire risk at all. Same thing with solid-state batteries, very, very low fire risk. And we also know that the new LFP batteries, what are they called? Lithium iron phosphate batteries, are also less fire prone. They're not fire safe, even though, unfortunately, sorry, I have a gentleman from BYD here? No. BYD likes to pierce their batteries basically and show that nothing happens. But we know that LFP batteries do catch fire as well, but they just catch fire at a higher temperature, so they're less likely to catch fire. But it's a very good point. Like going forward, we know it's not just going to be lithium batteries. We're going to have a whole heap of different battery chemistries, and obviously they're getting better and better as they go. So yeah, very good question. And we know that they're coming. As far as I know, China are experimenting. They said that maybe next year we'll have some solid-state batteries, and we'll have some sodium batteries as well. I think there might be some sodium batteries already in China.
John Quan from Cattle was talking about it last year. So not that we're thinking the Chinese are being sneaky, but when it comes with a rush, I'm sure it'll happen overnight.
Exactly. But lithium batteries are still going to be around for a very, very long time, because with the battery, there's so many. You basically got to balance longevity with power, with charging speed, and all of those things basically. And there's always yes, it might charge really, really fast, but then it degrades really quickly, or it'll last for 20 years basically, but it charges really slow. So there's those things basically. You always have to.
There was a gentleman talking about leafs.
Yep.
Oh no, I've heard they're terrible. It's like, mate, that car's 15 years old. It's still working. The person driving it only does 11 kilometres a day. It doesn't need to drive to Strawn and back.
I can tell you, my mum still drives an iMeave that's 13 years old and it's got less than 90 k's of range. Still serves her, every day.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
She's not giving any money to the Saudis. Other questions? No, because our next... Another one? Good, sir. They were good ones. Solid state.
We got time?
Solid state lithium's getting a bit of airtime. How are they much more expensive, and are they likely to replace the previous technology? I believe they're very good in capacity.
They're also they're very fast charging as well. I think there's still no one's really perfected the technology or the solid state yet. Toyota's been working on it from 2010 at least, maybe even further back. It's always been kind of two years away. Like they announced, we're going to have solid state soon, and then 2 years later we're going to have solid state soon. So I think we'll get there. It's only a matter of time, but the Chinese are probably going to figure it out first. Is it going to replace? I think that'll come down to cost. I actually think LFP, because of the really low cost and efficiency that you get out of those, they're going to be probably one of the most prolific batteries that we're going to have for at least the next 2, 3, maybe up to 5 years. And then after that, we might have a new technology. Yeah.
So don't sell your shares in the lithium mine yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. One of the biggest ones is just near Darwin, 30 k's, and people always going on about cobalt in Africa, and it's like, we got lithium. We want lithium to stay. Anyone can do salt.
Most people don't realize that most of the lithium in Teslas are actually all from Australia.
Yeah.
And most people also don't know that the LFP batteries that I'm talking about, they're all in. That's the only type of battery that most of the BYDs have it. All the base model Teslas have LFP batteries. And there's no cobalt or nickel in those. So.
Yeah. But you see it on Facebook quite a lot. All those poor kids, working in mines in the Congo. It's actually an artisanal business, isn't it? Big hand for Bjorn, and we'll have some more speakers. He'll still be here. You're here tomorrow too? Are you here tomorrow still?
No, sorry, I'm fine.
Oh, no. Google him. He's an interesting fella and he knows what he's talking about. I'm guessing young Wayne Gorman's going to come down. Wayne's probably one of us.